also that not only are you hallucinating, but it's your dream. So that means that everything that happens in my consciousness is all me. So if I don't like that so-and-so out there, then I'm looking at my own thoughts about me. And when the gap starts to close and you realize that you've never been the character, that you've been dreaming of the character, but you're not the character. So all fear is of the ego thought system. Anyway, fear is a stranger to the ways of love. And my dog's outside, so sweet. He's looking out. I just love him. Identify with fear, and you will be a stranger to yourself. So the self with a capital S is ignored. And how many years did I listen to Dove say, do you want to, own what you ignored, or whatever that saying is? And honestly, I was probably just waiting for the whole thought system to fall away, but that was all ego. The Spirit has brought me right here, right now, to the present, in presence. And the one thing that kept happening is we keep going back to the Course, because the Course is the most desirable book, because really Jesus is doing all the work. Or it could be Spirit or God, whatever you want to call it. So what is yourself remains an alien to the part of you which thinks that it is real, but different from yourself. The ego would say, well, you're Sharon. You've been Sharon for 70 years. Okay, that is the ego echoing the past, and that's all it does throughout our lives. Just echoes things. Do you remember that? Do you remember this? So I never talked about last week when I went to Philadelphia, and I'll go on with the lesson. But last week when I went to Philadelphia, I had a nice, pleasant train ride, as I always do. And when I was walking to go to the bathroom, the driver, the conductor, stopped short. And as he stopped short, I flew backwards and hit my head really hard on the ground of the train. And it was very scary, but at the same time, I had no fear. The only thing that really came up was embarrassment. I really had no fear because I didn't fight it. And I don't know how that happened. That was a miracle into itself, because what you resist persists. So by not fighting it, I just went with it. And that had to be completely orchestrated by the one Spirit that's living through everything all the time, the essence of who we really are. So it was hospital for 7 hours in Philadelphia. And then it's now a week today since I had this. And I am feeling so much better. I was sore, and I really feel grateful that when I went back on the train again, I had no fear whatsoever or any desire to even talk about what happened, as the ego mind likes to talk about victimhood all the time. So I pretty much, my son said, well, do you really want to walk around the train again? I said, I don't want to be scared of anything that seems so simple. I'm going to do what I want. And that's what I did. And I met a friend, and it was lovely. So why is fear the stranger here? Because the ego is really not there. The ego is a mistaken identity. We identify as a thought system. That's all it is. And, of course, the ego itself will say, no, but you're Sharon. You had a childhood. You got married twice. You're this, you're that. And I thought, the ego is in this mind body is thinning out very, very, very slowly, quietly, and gently. It's a very, one thing that coming back to the Course in Miracles, that I loved the most was the gentleness. I mean, he truly does something with our minds to undo them. And the first 50 lessons are outstanding, but these lessons, every lesson is a lesson of getting in the natural state. So what is yourself remains an alien to the part of you which thinks that it is real, but different from yourself. Who could be sane in such a circumstance? Who but a madman could believe he is what he is not, and judge against himself? It's funny because this has been a play that we're putting on. And it's already over. It was over the moment that we thought it. But this is how powerful our mind is. So keeping in mind that my mind's so powerful, I need do nothing. But not interfere, meaning enter into fear. And that would mean the raucous talking of the ego, the constant chattering of who did this and what happened, is quiet now. I spoke about Amy Torres last night. I have her book. I got it a couple years ago, Sweet Dreams. And one of her things that she talks about is journaling a lot. Not in this book, but I listened to her quite a bit, and she is really giving you good advice, because when you have a thought or you're listening to someone, and I have a trouble remembering because the ego doesn't want you to remember. I mean, the ego's job basically is to show us that this is real. This seeming reality is real, and it's a real experience, but it's not real. There's nothing real about this. I'm as much Lynn as I am Sharon, and Dove as I am Sharon. Because really I am as God created me. So, fear, I had never realized that fear was the whole thought system, because things come together when they come together. And the whole point is, when he talks about patience in the manual, Jesus is basically saying, we don't even know what patience is. I mean, we don't know what love is. We don't know what patience is. The ego's not a patient thought system, especially if there's energy, like in this mind, of always being afraid of being wrong, right? When in fact, that's the whole gift of the Course. You want to be wrong. You want to be wrong about everything. You want to not know a thing. So there is a stranger in our midst who comes from an idea so foreign to the truth he speaks a different language, looks upon a world truth does not know, and understands what truth regards as senseless. Stranger yet, he does not recognize to whom he comes, and yet maintains his home belongs to him. While he is alien now, who is at home? The whole time, the true self is sitting here and watching. And that is the Holy Spirit. And the true self is basically saying, you're wasting your time, because none of this is real. These are thoughts. What you're doing all day long is just mentally, as Dove would say, masturbating on your thoughts and believing that they are going to get you somewhere, and they can't. The thought system of the ego is very limited and very judgmental. When we let go of judging and don't know anything, that's when we're really home. I tried that through the years, but ego would always barge in. And now it seems like spirit is letting down. The ego is letting down its claws and saying, it's time to surrender, Sharon. Surrender to all of it, because you really don't know what you are. What reason is there for not saying this? What could the reason be except that you had asked this stranger in to take your place? And it was that simple, right? What would it be like to be separate? That was just a thought. This is a story, because I doubt whether when we are in heaven, in the highest point of our evolution, where we are a formless being, never leaving God, I would think, thinking is probably the worst thing you can do, how fortunate every single being that is on this path is, to know this is not your reality, to know that you're not the character, that the character's actually meaningless. The meaninglessness of the character is that it's a fabrication of ideas that were actually downloaded into my system of all of the right, wrong, and lack that you can think of, right? So the stillness is where we are. We're in that stillness, watching, saying nothing, judging not, and just looking. I remember there was these little retreats, Lynn, I think you went on them, that would be like be the love. And it was, I never got to those, but I know that those retreats were, Monica used to go and tell me about them. And it was basically the newness of all this. I didn't choose to go at that point. I only really went to one thing, no, two things. I went to see Vicky Poppy years ago and went with her to a retreat for a couple of days, and I forget where that was, and Joan was there. And then I also went with Lynn to Diedrich. And that was a great production last night. I mean, teaching last night, Lynn. A really great teaching. So, in any case, he's saying basically, this is my home. Here I belong. I will not leave because a madman says I must. You know, the ego will come in and doubt everything. And a lot of times, the laboratory that we're in, you know, I'm trying to find my dog. Where could he? Oh, there you are, cutie pie. Hi, love. Isn't it beautiful out, Scruffords? Anyway, what could the reason be except that you asked the stranger in to take your place and let you be a stranger to yourself? No one would let himself be disposed so needlessly unless he thought there were another home more suited to his taste. You know, the ego in this mind would say, well, I'm not going to give my kids up. Well, you don't give up your kids. You don't give up anything because they're no different than I am. We are all awareness. We are all the presence of love. And love is inclusive. So he says, who is the stranger? It is fear, or you who are unsuited to the home which God provided for his son. Is fear his own, created in his likeness? It is fear that love completes and is completed by. There is no home can shelter love and fear. Then fear must be an illusion. And if fear is real, then you do not exist at all. And that is what we really have to get. But how do you get that? You get that by practice. Practice, practice, practice. Practice, and that is why the course lessons and the times that it tells you to do certain things is so important. Because you can't forget if you keep going back into the lesson. Because forgetfulness, you know, well, it sneaks up on us, right? It just does. And that's not a big deal, really. Some beings think that God is that would be in Eastern, think that God is all part of this, but it's not eternal, so it cannot be God, right? It could be God consciousness, or it could be ego consciousness, because we're never in form here, because form, well, it doesn't even exist either. But if it did exist, it would be made up of the same condensed objects. The same object as a chair, right? How simply then the question is resolved. Who fears has but denied himself. Why, O Holy Son of God, do you choose to deny? I don't think anyone's doing that on purpose. I think it's coming through because for me, it was just like a gradual shift of truth, of just being in the flow. And how do you stay in the flow? By just being silent. And what happens when the thoughts come up? They just come up. But you know, it's like Muji used to say, you don't grab them and say, I'll take that business card and that business card. Because they don't even belong to you. They're just going on through the universe. Thoughts aren't personal. I am isn't personal. The Course appears to be personal, but it's never been personal. It brings us to spiritual unity. So, um, what does he search for now? What can he find? A stranger to himself can find no home wherever he may look, for he has made return impossible. His way is lost, except a miracle will search him out and show him that he is no stranger now. The miracle will come, for in his home his self remains. It is asked no stranger in, and took no alien thought to be itself. And it will call its own unto itself in recognition of what is its own. So it's a long lesson, but I can continue by just saying, Lynn, are you there? Maybe she went to get coffee. Well, she could have. You know, I'm going to
I'm
play.
right here. I just couldn't get to the mouse in time.
No, okay.
Unmute
I was going to
myself.
say, I was going to say, I think it was Saturday that I listened to you from Maureen because I can't always get there in the morning. Sometimes I'm on a walk with my kid, my dog. Sometimes I'm just writing with Spirit. So I heard you teach because I always listen to her recordings, and it was fabulous the way you were saying uh, everything was flowing through you. Like I think that what I'm hearing now, because my ego's moved out of the way, is just the flow of the essence on how not to have compassion even for politicians that are hated, because that's their part to play, but that's not who they are, and that's real important.
Thank you for that. And yeah, I love that Saturday group. And
I
I
have to
think,
come in one time. I didn't come into. I don't come on screen because it's early and Cliff's usually sleeping, and I'm kind of in and out of sleep. You know what I mean?
yeah, I understand that completely. But
Yeah, but
you're
your time
welcome to.
is 8:30, right? What's the times that you and Dove come in?
I come. It must be 8:20 your time, so it's 7:20
Okay,
my time.
all right,
And I don't
8:20.
know what time Dove comes in. He could tell you he's here, so he
He
knows.
comes in the same time as you, I think.
Well, no, he can't come in the same time as me because I'm there.
No, the day before. I mean, like Sunday.
Oh,
He's Sunday. You're Saturday, and he's Sunday.
I think he does earlier Sunday.
10, which is in the morning when Prudence is on.
Yeah, but what time are you in Maureen's? Because I never know. Like I don't.
7:45 a.m.
Oh, so you come in early, actually.
7:45. Yeah.
So that's 6:45 your time.
No, no, she's in Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, she's in Pennsylvania. Okay, 7:45.
7:45. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in Pennsylvania, so I could get on then because sometimes I don't even I've never even met Maureen yet. And here's the thing, Joni signed me up because she had told me that I would love it and try it. And I do love to listen to the group, but I'm not feeling as like I want to be known as the character anymore. I'm kind of like in the background because I'm trying as I can to get things done when I'm doing that, but also playing it back and listening. And I always listen to Dove on there, but Lynn, I never knew that Lynn was teaching on Saturdays till recently. So I think what I'm going to do, Dove, is ask you a favor. Maureen's thing is on my phone, but I don't know how to put it on my email. So then I can use my computer and come on. Now here I'm on my computer, but I'm outside, so you can't really see me. But I don't want to just come on without, being visible.
I can give you it's a very easy link. Joni made it up. You want me to put it here and you can copy it or no?
Yeah,
I
and
don't
it's
know
just
how to do that. Like copy, I've tried to on here.
All
If
right,
you
I'll
could,
send you an email. I'll send you an email.
yeah,
yeah, send it
and
because
it,
you did this with this link. Now I would like to learn, but it seems like my brain can't grasp it. So
it's
it
the
is what it
same
is.
link for everyone.
Yeah, it's the same exactly. It's the same link.
It's
I
the
know,
same
but I
link for.
never had it on my computer. I only have it
All
on
right,
my.
I'll send it to you by email.
All right, yeah, because I would like to come in and just, because I think I gotta say, Maureen is so talented. She's so talented. When I listen to what she says to people and everybody in that group, you're in a group too that I loved when I heard it. I haven't loved. I think the Course in Miracles groups have come alive recently for me because there's like a drought in the system because I was going all over the place. Yet that was necessary because you cannot make a wrong move on this path. Because every part of it, and in the end, I know nothing. Because what am I going to do? What do you say? What you are? You don't know what you are. You can't know what you are because there's no word for it. It just isness.
There's nothing to say.
Yeah, it's just silent. But this is all for. I would say that this group. Do you see a difference in this group? I do, Lynn. Now it is me too because I've changed, or made a dramatic, like kind of change. But don't you think everybody has? That's what I'm feeling.
Oh gosh, yeah. Everybody in our group is
He's
awake, 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 and I
right.
see that all the time. And
Right.
I've never, it's so evident. I've never seen it really any other way. And I think it's only the people in the group that see it a different way. They
Yes.
see themselves as being something different other than what they are. But what, when you look and see we're all the same, then
Yeah,
it's
it's all
really
that.
easy. We were talking about that yesterday, who was talking about sameness on Gather, and it was, I think maybe it was Ressa. Someone was saying that in A Course of Love, they talk about sameness, and I said, well, Jesus talks about sameness in A Course of Miracles all the time, and they said, oh, I wasn't aware of that, and like what? I'm
No,
shocked.
sameness. If you stay and gather, you're going to know sameness from Dove. That's all he said
You're
over
going to
the
hear
years.
sameness all the time, yeah,
Yeah, but
because
he's
of
been an
course.
advanced teacher like since I came in. So
Well,
I
but
was
it's what the course says. How can you,
yeah,
I
right. But
mean,
I
it's
didn't pick
not
it
like
up
it's
until
some strange thing that came out of
no, I know.
nowhere. Nobody invented it. It was Jesus in the Course of Miracles.
Yeah, but until you're like to a place where you realize everything that the course is saying is true. That took me a while because I couldn't lie to myself, but I know now that all the retreats and advances are all confused for the confused mind. And the other point is that, especially with Ken Wapnick, you really come back into the mind. You've never been a person. You've always been mind. And what does that mean? You don't even have to know. Mind is awareness. It could be that. But really, the less we know, the more the stillness is just coming through us. So I'm going to read. I have a lot of his little books, Ken, and I love him. So this one, of course, if you want to put in the book Healing the Unhealed Mind, I'm all for that too, because then everybody can do it. But I'm just going to read in Taking the Ego Lightly. He writes, I don't want to talk about the Course's view of time other than to say there is no linear time. So timelessness is right here. Timelessness is what we truly are. And yet that's a ridiculous label because that would be like, well, what is timelessness? It's funny. I watched this. I sent you this morning because I thought when we would play it. But um, there's a movie that I love. I don't, and I sent it to you this morning. This thing, but it's all about the fact that the woman in the movie is dreaming, and I knew this. I watched this movie when I was a kid, and I I I think we all know when we start to really get this that all along we've known something's different. Because The Wizard of Oz was a show that I could not break away from. So, I mean, it's the other thing is like, memory is just memory. But if you just hear right now, you get to see the birds better. You get to see the kingdom of heaven is everything, even here where it's all inanimate objects, or it seems to be when they're alive. Everything's alive. So, it's the kind of thing that if you're, for me, I just thought I would never get there. Oh, Somewhere in Time, it's called. And I thought that would be a good movie night. And I would do the work getting the people together. I'll call them for you, Lynn. Maybe we could do, or if you don't like that, maybe we could do another one. But the movie thing is good and I'll tell you, we have a couple people that live alone in our group, and they would probably love that. So what do you think? She might have been called away.
Yeah, no,
All right.
that's a good movie. I've not been called away. I'm just trying to get my
Oh, right.
on
Yeah.
to the microphone.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm impatient because I'm thinking you're impatient. And
No, if the ego goes first in me, it's a very impatient ego, very impatient.
yeah, yeah.
If I
So,
slow down, I'm okay. The other
yeah.
thing I was going to ask, Glorian's teaching, I didn't see the whole thing because I was at Andrews on Friday. I mean, I was going to, I forget where I was on Friday. I was coming home from Philadelphia to Altoona, so I couldn't get on there to see the whole thing. And then there's also Brent Haskell's teaching, which I just love his book. But I always thought I wasn't doing the course if I didn't go back to the course. But in fact, you pick up that book and it's experiential from the beginning. But the ego does come undone or relaxes as we do those lessons, those beautiful lessons. So he's saying there's no time, which means that the original projection is occurring right now. Every time I go back in story, I'm just projecting again.
Exactly.
Think
You know, I
it,
was going to tell you, you mentioned Brent Haskell. Guess who's now reading and talking about Brent Haskell's books? Jamie Twyman.
you're kidding.
Yeah, yesterday in Namaste, he started talking about Brent Haskell and Journey Beyond Words, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Talk about timely because you mentioned him this morning.
I love him. First of all, what came through him is, Dove was the one who brought it together. And then I went and got them, and I would do them on my own, but my ego would still go out, or the ego would still go out there and say, well, you want to do the real course because and no, that's the course too. In fact, what you notice is everything is the course because every spiritual text ends up becoming the same. Really, they do. I just
Yeah,
think that this one is a treasure map, the way it undoes things.
it absolutely is.
He's saying here, we are always making the world right now because there's no past.
Yeah,
But again, you do not have to fully grasp that. Now, here's the thing. I do grasp it, but I was a ego that lived in the past. Like we all live in the past. We can't not live in the past because as soon as we are here and we see a cup and then name it, then the cup is from the past. It's the only way we know anything. However, he's saying you don't have to fully grasp it, but you end up grasping it. It happens completely organically from spirit. The promise is that we will get to Oz, but we've been in Oz the whole time. We just didn't know it. I really, when you're in an ego that's so egoic, for me, like when he would say, do you want to, know what you denied? I would say, okay, I do want to know, but I'd be right here, right now, and not even pay attention. The ego is a very clever tool, but it's a tool. What is important is to understand that it is an underpinning. That is why the Course says that when you totally forgive one person, you have forgiven everyone. It is always the same error. The error is only one thing. You think that person is a person. And when you see that in one of Eckhart Tolle's book, I think it's Stillness Speaks, he will say to think a person is a person, is not see them in their true form, is violent. He uses that word violent, which is kind of odd, right? Because it's really not violent, but it
it
is
is
violent.
violent. It is
Yeah,
absolutely violent.
yeah,
It's
because the
not
ego
odd.
is
It's
a
an
violent,
attack.
right? Because they could die, but it
Well, it
doesn't.
doesn't matter if they die or not. It's what I think I'm attacking them. If
Right,
I'm looking at Sharon and saying, "Oh, there's Sharon, and she's a this and she's a that," and I'm not, I'm looking at the character and not at the truth of who you are. And if I'm looking at you and seeing you as something other than what you are, that is attack.
right,
I'll talk to you like you're not that. I will. That's why nonviolent communication is so important because it helps you to
yes,
recognize the attack that you thought was just casual conversation.
right, right. Yeah. Now, okay, we have like a half hour. Like, do you want to go to the book? I mean, I can tell you, you could stay with this one book, Healing the Unhealed Mind, and you'd be done. You don't have to open another book because he put everything in this one book. Do you want to read that?
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay, because we could just take a part and then go back and forth. Is it beautiful in Colorado? Because it's gorgeous here today.
Oh, it is just gorgeous. It is so lovely. And I'm looking at I'm listening to your birds. I got my birds in the back too, and but I'm not outside. I'm in the house. So, um, because it's still earlier here. I mean, it's just 9 o'clock now or 8 o'clock now here. So it's, hasn't warmed up. The full warmth of the day is going to be hot. But
Oh, it
yeah,
is. I don't know what it is because right now it's definitely like in the 70s, and it is gorgeous.
so I
Gorgeous.
want to ask you before we go to first off, I'm going to talk a minute about what Sebastian said last night. And I know, if you, it's hard, if you don't, You may look at him and go, I don't know what Lynn sees in this guy that he's, that she thinks he's just so
Oh no, I
beautiful.
saw a lot in him last night. Are you kidding me?
He is so humble,
He's
so
just so
beautiful.
beautiful, gentle,
And
and his accent. Oh,
I know
please, I'm
he's
going to listen to
adorable.
all of that again. Glenn sends it out like where you can listen to the recordings. So
Yeah, there you can actually go to the portal where we have a lot of
yeah, here
a
I
lot.
could start read. You want to start from the beginning? We could do this book. I mean, it doesn't have to be Ken Wapnick because it's all the same.
Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted this is what he read to us last night, and honestly, this is so perfect and beautiful. And again, how I love Sebastian with all my heart. He is, when I look at him,
You met him too.
yeah, yeah, I spend time with him, I talk with him, I dance with him, I hugged him, oh my goodness, just and I mean, it's like,
Divine
yeah,
being.
being with a saint, honestly. But so last night, what he was reading to us was these are the last words from Resurrection Consciousness. It says, "My beloved, go into the world, bringing the resurrection wherever my love sends you. Let yourself be flooded by my light. Immerse yourself in the holiness of your being. Abandon yourself totally in me, who am the source of beautiful love, and you will see great wonders in your life, now and forever. Make love the only source of your knowledge and action. I bless you in my divine being, Jesus the Christ in you. But this make love the only source of your knowledge and
Oh, I
action.
love that.
That was really what he was emphasizing. And you could tell, you could see it in him that what he was expressing was love. And how he was expressing it was through love. I mean, he's like the poster boy for love. When you see him, when you talk to him, when you experience him, it is a love. Uh, it's a love relationship for sure. But
It's funny because this is the one resurrection consciousness portal, right?
yeah, Resurrection Consciousness, yeah.
And what's his other book? Because I have that one. I didn't
He has oh gosh, he has so many books. He has
one before that.
the one before this was The Age of the Heart,
That's the one I have.
which is talking about the new age that we're entering into, which is the age of the heart. And it is and it is going to be felt throughout the world, is going to be felt by everyone, is going to see and hear and know. They're saying by the year 2035, this great shift will have occurred. So that's not that long from now. 2032 is when the real big shift is going to be coming along. But
Really? 2025? Is that what they're saying?
yeah, by 2035, in basically in 10 years, in 10 years,
Wow.
there's going to be a massive shift, and it's going to be caused by the work that we're doing right now. It's going to be caused by our alignment with the Christ mind and
That
our,
is so awesome. I'm just like,
yeah.
yeah, it really is. It's really, really awesome.
And of
Yeah,
course,
I
we're not
have
talking.
The Age of the Heart, but I don't have the other one. But I wouldn't mind doing these books. We have a group like I know that well, I love our group. You know who I mean. I'm talking not Karen, Mickey, yeah. Mickey lives by herself, and I think she just like I did. I lived by myself for years, and it's really like good for fellowship to have connection. So I just have to sit with somebody, one of my kids, and have them teach me how to. I know how to get on Zoom, but to start a Zoom because I personally have so much time where I just feel like connecting is so on Zoom because then you see it's the essence of you're in the essence yet you're seeing you're seeing your image in your mind that you just projected because that's all we're doing anyway. But getting back to this book, is that you want to start this one or do you want to do Healing the Unhealed Mind?
Well, we can do Healing the Unhealed Mind. But I would love to do this book.
I would
this,
too.
because it's so beautiful. I just, of course, we just went through it with this whole group of people, and you saw that group of people and what
Yeah, they were amazing.
incredibly, I mean, and there's people in there. um, of course, Brian Logsdon just passed away. Brian and Tessa were in that group. Tessa's still, obviously. Alice and Rod Friend. Rod just passed away. Um, he was an amazing artist and such a beautiful teacher. I've known them for years, and they're obviously Alice is still there, and she was there last night, so good to see her. But there's people in that group that are just uh, uh, uh
Phenomenal.
phenomenal. Yeah,
Yeah.
phenomenal. And it's
Oh, I
such
loved it. But it's late for me. Usually I fall asleep by 9, so I can get it on the recording. But I want to go to the course in law. I got to tell you, Brooklyn is so sweet. She said to us last night, I just can't wait because she wanted to do a course in love. And now we have a group to do it. We could do our books and still go here. So I'm very excited about it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And of course, like I said, they have the portal, and you can always go onto the portal and look at all the different things that you just have to become, join that particular group.
Right.
And there's all the recordings, and then there's, messages between us. And then also we have a WhatsApp group. I don't know if you do WhatsApp.
Yeah, I
Uh,
have to redo. I used to do it with Helen, but I would you believe I forget? So I just have to maybe go over it with you just on my phone. Not now though. You know.
But yeah, no, not now. But yeah, and there's so many ways of connecting, and that's what
Right.
Sebastian was talking about. This is our community and communion, this connection we
Yes.
have with
Yes.
each other. That is what is going to do this shifting. If we
Yes.
didn't, if we don't allow this communion to come forth, then the shift that we're talking about is not going to occur. But it is because we choose and allow to be a part of this communion.
Right.
Again, communion, community.
I mean, the whole thing is like, well, groups. I feel like group for me, especially coming back to this group, it moved me a lot more because of the comfort I felt here. Like the ego in me was probably as we go down into the chakras, some of your early childhood stuff comes up. And I think the other groups that I was in were not as comfortable. This one is like all our tribe. I can't explain
Yeah,
it.
I
you
agree.
know,
I agree. It
the
is. It very
warmth.
much
It's
is.
so warm. And I have a tendency to be very warm. But, I have an ego like everybody else. I mean, if anything, you saw I can be a bitch too. So
Yeah,
it was just
well, we all can.
yeah. So but okay, so I think Marcy will be back. I don't know though next week, but who knows? But we're gonna do Bill in a little while. But let's do this now. To state this again, do you want to read this?
Okay, yeah, just a minute though. I wanted to say, you said you fell on the train. Why had I not heard about that?
I didn't
Not
talk about it. I think I told uh, Glorian wrote me and Karen, but I didn't even mention it because I didn't get on and I didn't want to interrupt people. Isn't that new for me?
yeah, yeah, that's odd. But I'm telling you, that's
Usually I
weird
would call
because
everybody and say, I fell on the effing train, but I didn't.
yeah, well, that and then also, did you Lily? Do you know Lily Pennington?
No.
She wasn't on screen last night because she's got a big black eye and big shiner, and
Oh,
she fell, and like she tripped on her, I don't know, something she was wearing. She was explaining it, and anyway, she tripped on. She said it was her. Anyway, something she was wearing. She tripped. She fell. She fractured her pelvis, and she fell flat on her face. So I think she broke her nose. She's got a big
was
old.
this the train?
No, she was just going on the street. She was,
Yeah, accidents happen like that.
yeah,
Lynn, if you had seen me go, you would have said, how does she write? Like I just went down like a puppet. And then I hit
yeah.
my head. And the two people that saw said, are you all right? But they didn't get up. And I'm like so embarrassed. I said, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I go sit down. And then all of a sudden I'm nauseous and dizzy. So I called Cliff and then I called my son. And then he picked me up. And poor kid, he was working. I was coming down to help him, and he's very devoted son, and he sat with me for 7 hours at the doctor. So the next day I was a little like what we call in Yiddish fachaded. It means confused. And
Uh-huh.
then I started to, but they gave me this Reglan, and it helped me enormously, and it's even helping with my digestion. You only stay
Oh
on it
yeah,
like
Raglan is really good for your, I mean, if you have tummy
really
troubles.
good, but you can't be on it long because you can develop a stiffening thing. I've seen people have that. So you're only on it for like 7 times. That's, I only have it for 7 days. But in
Yeah.
any case, it was I was so sore, and I even took the train back Friday, but I just chose to. I had prepared myself to tell them, to help me, these conductors, and then I realized, no, I don't want to do that. I have spirit with me. Now, don't get me wrong. If I needed a physical body, they would have showed up, but I didn't need a physical body. I just needed to just be okay with not scaring myself that I'll fall again, because I know you fell on one of your trips. I remember, and you were going to Vicky's. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was horrible.
It was horrible.
And Cliff fell on his face and he broke his tooth. So falls are not, and then I have so many stories with that. But you know what? The thing is, I just got lucky, I guess, or it's not written in my script. It's the only thing I can say why I didn't hurt myself more. Now my kids still feel, because I started with ear pain, and they said, "Oh, it can go down," but they were raised by me, so they're super duper neurotic, because that's what I was. they're like they're like the Seinfelds. My family would make you, and I usually was the one that always, they just joke a lot. The two boys I have, but they're just beautiful, and sometimes like Andrew was losing it with me because he was missing work. You know how that can be.
Oh yeah.
And so I was just so quiet. I think he was a little surprised because I used to have a comeback. I don't have those comebacks like I did.
Yeah.
So, the ego is really a destructive mechanism. It will destroy your life, and it's not even you.
Well, I mean, that's what gives it entertainment. That's what
Right.
keeps it alive is that excitement, the thrill of playing the puppet master and watching us bob
Right.
and weave and do whatever it is they tell us to do. It's pretty crazy.
I wanted to ask you, we're not on, did you tape this?
Yeah, we're actually on YouTube.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I don't want to say a word. But in any case, as far as oh, today is just glorious. So okay, so then am I reading or you?
You can read, sure.
I don't care. Okay, to state this again, what you want to do when you are in a situation where people are in pain, whether physical, emotional, financial, marital, parental, or whatever the seeming source, is to be an example of someone who's at peace and who is above the battleground, looking down, which means that you are unaffected by what the world is doing. Now, I have a friend that comes over every week for lunch, and she's on our path. She's not a course student. She did a lot of other teachings, I don't even know. But during the time that I was upset about the election, she was just what he's saying, over the battlefield. Now I'm over the battlefield. And that's all that matters. But it's so interesting when you get these subtle shifts, how one thing one day, and there was Regis, one thing one day can bother you, and the next day it's not there, because we are completely reading a script. It's just like a complete simulation of nonsense. That's what this all is. It's nonsense, you know. And the addictions for I don't know, I just find that this path gets more delicious. In any case, you may seem to be affected, and you often need to interact with people on the level they can accept. That is what meeting somebody where they are, which is simple kindness expressed in a form the person can understand without fear. So I do have a friend going through a child that's addicted, and she's just not being led to do the steps or any of that. And I listen because if somebody doesn't want to come to God, then they're not just going to come to God. They're not, because you're being lived by the one, and that doesn't mean anything because they still are the same as all of us, whether they're on the path or not. They're always safe because they're not informed. But in any case, she's having a very hard time. And I was sponsoring people in the program for a long time, but I couldn't sponsor her because I would always say to my sponsees, go to God. You don't go to me, go to God. Because you always want to bring that. And if a person is not inclined to go to God or nor wants to do that, because I was there at one point too, then you just love them. You love them to death. You just know that they're okay. So then it says, you may seem to be affected, and you often need to interact with people on the level they can accept, which is simple kindness expressed in a form. Now, kindness created us kind. So, what would love do? Love will always meet. First of all, love is humility. It's just what you said, about Sebastian. Humility, spiritual humility, of course, knows you know who you are, but you remain quiet and gentle and patient and loving, right? Sympathizing with certain people is never kind because that excludes others. Now, I love that he wrote that. Like if I say I'm so sorry, I always felt it was unkind, like just to pay attention to the one. So you just kind of realize that you just say I'm here for you, period. You know. So when you look at this world, if you really want to be kind, you can be so only as a healed mind. And he is right. Now, when he says a healed mind, my mind's not completely healed. I don't know that anyone goes. Lynn and I spoke about that this morning, that the ego's still there. And the ego's not bad. You get to a place where you realize it's nothing, but it makes up stories. And the stories are conflicting stories because there's no one out there. No one is there. No one is there. No one is there. And getting that into the bone and the meat of all of this is the next moment to realize you've never been a person. You're a voice. You're just a voice in consciousness. This brings me to a memory when I did my first breath retreat, breathwork retreat, and I was breathing and heard myself through when I went within and heard my voice in this darkness, like the Tao says, and that blew me away. I mean, that was kind of interesting because I didn't, I didn't at the know what that was, and I think the ego shut down after that. And that's what happens if you're not aware of the fear. And he is right, Ken, to know we're not really here does create fear because the ego gets scared, but it's not who you are. And when you really see that you've never been ego, because you can see yourself cooking, reading, talking, this is it. It's everywhere. Like God created the sky, God created the trees. Well, who is that but us? It's always God meeting God, period. So where do you go when you die? Well, who cares? In fact, who cares about anything? Because that's something Ramesh Basakar always, he has a book called Who Cares? And it's very much about just none of it matters. But Ken gives us the psychological thing like sympathy, like, oh, I'm so sorry, is actually digging into them. But instead, like, what can I do for you? Here we go with nonviolent communication. What are you feeling? What are your needs? What are you feeling? What are your needs? And this is what we reiterate in every moment. So, with that, we have 5 more minutes. Lynn, you close, and then that's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to leave this here. mark that place. All right, and close this out. And I don't know how long that thing is that you sent me earlier. That's
Oh, the
somewhere.
song?
Yeah.
It's just a song, but when she talks about she created it in her mind.
Oh,
Well,
really?
she talks about it in that she created the figure in her mind. And I think that's so awesome because, like, I watched the movie when I came home this weekend because I own it and it's just so good. Oh, Regis wants to say something.
Oh, good. Regis.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Hey, Sharon, it's good that you got your camera on today. I love it, and being
I
out on
know,
the
isn't it
deck,
beautiful here?
and
Oh
I
my,
can hear the birds. I love it.
yeah, I live like on a mountain. It's like, it's, see, there's all mountains in Altoona. It's the most
Oh
beautiful
yeah,
part of Pennsylvania. I
oh
love
yeah.
it. It's all nature, you
And that
know?
rainbow in my picture is outside my house.
Oh my
And
God, that's gorgeous. Yes.
y'all know I love rainbows. But I wanted to comment on what you just read and what you were saying about that word sympathize. Uh, I can relate to that in such a huge way. And while you was talking about it, I did go and look it up just for even more clarity because I just felt guided to look it up. I felt there was something there for me in the definition. So that it has two definitions. It has a one and a two. But I really think this hones in on the second definition of sympathize, which means agree with a sentiment or opinion. So we're not when we sympathize, we're agreeing. So you're agreeing as an African American. I can't count how many times I've been. I don't know if the word would be ridiculed or criticized because I didn't sympathize. I knew to sympathize with all the social drama of being African American. I would exclude you, Sharon. I would exclude Lynn. I would exclude my white brothers and sisters or my Hispanics or whatever. And that never sat right with me. And I even when I was in the Christian church, I was criticized or browbeat because I associated with white churches. And they like, well, you got to stand with the black church. And I'm like, it is like so. And I understand what I understand some of the plights of having brown skin. I understand that things happen, that people can be racist and bigots, and they can be violent towards you and undermine you. I understand that, but when I to sympathize with that would mean I would cut out so many people. And even when it came to Christianity, as Christians want to say we're saved and we're sanctified and we're filled with the Holy Ghost and these people are bad. And so you start just cutting out large numbers of people. You
You don't
start
realize.
cutting out
Yeah.
whole communities. Yeah. So when Ken says that, that really strikes a chord with me, and I'm proud. I can say in an egoic sense that I had sense enough to know that didn't sit with me. That I could withstand in the truth of what love really is. That's embracing everyone. That's inclusive. That doesn't exclude. And even though there can be serious issues, even with our politics, you know, to understand, yes, my 401k is being diminished too. Things in my life are being affected by politics too. But also, these other people are included. We're all
Right.
included. We're all included. So when you talk about that word to sympathize with one is to exclude another, that has a powerful meaning, and it's not always what the culture is going to appreciate about you, because when the culture, or you may be Jewish, when the Jewish nation I don't know if they ever get upset or get all up in arms
Oh,
about
yes,
this thing or not. But
they do.
you have a choice. You have a choice. You know that I'm not going to sympathize with this and exclude the rest of the nation or the rest of my brothers and sisters and my next door neighbor and the person at the checkout line at the grocery store, or or am I going to rise above the battleground, as you like to say, I think, Sharon? Am I going to
Well,
rise
that's what
above the
Ken said,
battle?
but it's
Yeah,
true. Like if
yeah,
you rise above the battlefield, one of my favorite teachers is Keith Kavanaugh. Have you listened to him?
just not a lot.
Okay, he's not for everybody, but for me, he just brings it like to total silence, the mind.
Yeah,
But he always says, just sit with Jesus, just like Ken says, just sit with Jesus in the theater and watch the movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Ken is really the guy that I think you too love him. He's just a. Did you listen to Ken too when you were undoing, or did you just have your Holy Spirit?
I listen to Doug Fishman.
Yeah, then you get the whole course.
I listen to Doug Fishman a lot during my undoing, but that was about it. Now I listen to all of you talk about all these people. And for time, it's nothing whether I like or don't like anybody, or anybody sits better with me than another person. It's really just the 24 hours in a day. I was a working man. I had limited time and limited access, and so I just don't have the physical time to just. I have to pick and choose and use my time wisely. I can't spend it all listening to other teachers, and I'm thankful that the Holy Spirit is with me everywhere I go. And
Yeah,
so
you can't do it
there's
wrong.
nothing else. There's no needs outside of me. All these other people are enhancements, but there's nothing that I need that's outside of me. So I just that's just kind of where I'm at with that. Thanks.
Yeah, and Regis, yeah, thank you so much, Regis. I love you so much, brother. Regis came, I don't think you were studying the course or anything before you came in to gather, were you? I think
Oh
you,
no, I had never heard of it.
so yeah, you just stumbled in to gather and got caught up in the net.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just like me, that I listened to Dove. You know, I heard Dove in my sleep. That when I first came in here, that was basically all you heard. I mean, you heard other teachers that were like Lenny Rose and other
right.
teachers that were great in their own way as well. But Dove was the predominant teacher, and
Yes, he was. Yeah,
we
Yeah,
didn't
he
he
hear
did
a
was
teach
lot of
the course.
Ken.
he was the voice of my mind. Like, and Tracy, if you would hear Tracy, my wife, mention Dove, there is so much. She when she mentions Dove, there she has as much love and admiration in her heart as I do, and that's because not because she have listened to Dove, because she just have listened to me mention Dove, and she knows how much influence and how much he means to me. So you would think that she knows Dove like I know, but she doesn't. But that's just how much Dove influenced my conversation and the things I might say around the house or whatever.
I love that. Yeah. Well, and me too. And I'm sure he's listening. And uh, I hope you're taking it in the love, Dove, because you are my teacher. I could say Ken Wapnick is my teacher. I never found Ken Wapnick till I mean I had seen Ken Wapnick and met Ken Wapnick and listened to a little bit, but until I started listening to you, to Dove, you know, I, the this was just so much
He's a, yeah,
words. The course was just so much words, and hearing and learning, practicing and doing the things that I was encouraged to do, and especially coming on here and teaching. Because if you think, oh gee, Lynn, you have really evolved spiritually, that's because I'm here teaching this, listening to it, thinking about it all the time. How could I help it? And yeah, that is a beautiful rainbow. We do get a lot of rainbows here, even though we don't get a whole lot of rain. It's crazy, isn't it? But this is not typical. Our weather here is crazy this year, like everywhere else, I guess. So at least we haven't
Me and Tracy brought the South.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
We
Yeah.
brought the South to Colorado weather.
It is quite different now. But I'm not, I don't care. I think that's part of the shift, actually, is, we're all looking at the shift that's going on in the earth as being tragic and all these bad things are happening. But I think it's part of it is this global awakening that's coming along. And it's not like everybody in the, like it is we will experience it as a feeling. And I think that that's truly going to happen in um during my lifetime that that I will experience it as a feeling and see it everywhere. So anyhow, I'm going to
I
close
just
out.
want to tell Regis one thing. Regis, do you